Hello and welcome to the Sports Extravaganza for today. Presented by Hallelujah Entertainment, and our sponsor for today is State Farm Insurance. Kincaid is waiting for your call at 314-997-3339. He's going to take care of your auto, your home, and your life. So, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. I'm your co-host. My name is Tony Dean. I'm here today with my partner, the coach, Kelvin Lee. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing good, Tony. Again, thanks a lot. Appreciate you, man. Again, this is podcast number 9, and I'm really excited. And like I said, we normally have shout-outs, but there's no shout-out today, Tony. We're going to dive right into this podcast and in this show because of the guests we have today. And I'm looking across the way, and I'm looking at one of the legends in St. Louis history of sports basketball. Again, I take my hat off to you, Coach, because again, to me, you taught me a lot. You didn't understand, you didn't know this at the time, but I'm very observant. I used to just watch across the way, look across the way, and watch you coach and how you carried yourself, how you dressed. You were always one of the best dressed coaches in St. Louis, and that meant a lot to me too. Because I'm looking at you now, you polo down, man. I get man, oh man. And again, Coach, again, I appreciate you when you accepted this invitation be on the show, and I'm excited a lot because I'm going to learn some stuff about you that I never knew. And again, I'm excited. But I'm going to turn the mic over to Tony Dean now. He's Batman, and again, we're going to roll with this thing, Coach. All right, Tony, let's go, man. Let's get it going. It's all the way live with Coach.
The Batman calling me the Batman. But anyway, I want to make sure that everyone out there is ready and knows who we have on this show today. We have a gentleman who was a great player at Central High School, went on to be a fine assistant and fantastic head coach as well at Beaumont High School. Today, I'd like to welcome the original Richard Bird Hamilton to the show. How you doing, Coach?
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to be on the show as well.
All right, we're feeling good to have you on here. I know, Coach, you got something to ask Coach right off the top.
Well, again, I'm just going to ask Coach, just tell us about your journey and where it all began. And again, when I want to hear about that.
Okay, actually, I played for St. Nicholas Parish when I was a youngster. We had some great teams. Played for a guy, one of the priests down there. His name was Brother Richard Bohr. He ran the skating rink and he coached basketball for the parish. So I played for them even though I did not attend St. Nick's School. They allowed a few players from outside the parish to play, and I was one of them. So I guess I became St. Nick's most famous stepchild, if you say. Yeah. So, and that's where I first picked up the name Big Bird, and I got that name because Brother Rich had an office, and they had like preschoolers that were after school waiting for their parents to come and pick them up. They would be in Brother Rich's office watching Big Bird and Sesame Street.
Okay.
And the Catholic schools and the public schools, they were off on certain days. So they were actually in school, but the public school was out. So I went up to get ready for practice, and they hadn't ended school yet. So I went to Brother Rich's office, and I was sitting in his office with all those little kids watching Big Bird and Sesame Street. Well, school, they didn't have a bell system, so school let out, and the guys went into the gym, and they started practice. Something happened with one of the players came into the office, and he saw me sitting there. He said, well, went back, told the coach, yeah, he's in there watching Big Bird and Sesame Street. So they called me Big Bird after that. So I
Big Bird?
The name remained with me until I got to Central, and then when I started playing for Jim Gant, they just called me Bird. They dropped the big and just called me Bird.
Oh my goodness, It's funny where nicknames come from.
Yeah.
I would have never believed that one.
I always tell people until I actually found out that Larry Bird's name was really Larry Bird. I said, man, I was the first Bird.
Well, Coach, when I heard Big Bird, I thought maybe it was because you're a play, because you're as a player.
Right, that ferocious play.
Yeah. But I wasn't blessed with jumping ability, and so people used to they used to mock me and tease me about not being able to dunk. And if I got my steps together, I could go and put one down. But
Right.
I had to really get my steps together. It was a task. So, but I accepted my name, and after that, I look around now. If you don't call me Bird, if you call me by my government name, I may not even answer you.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Coach, you say you weren't blessed with great leaping ability.
No.
So that means you probably had to have the fundamentals down. The fundamentals of the game, the footwork probably impeccable. So again, talk to us a bit about that.
Well, I got that from starting at St. Nick's. We had a great program. We played all the best little league schools and teams around. But our coach, he stressed fundamentals, and he always said that he wanted to prepare us for the next level. And so he made sure that we were grounded and well grounded in the fundamentals of passing and shooting and defending and all the things that you need to do in order to become a successful basketball player.
Boxing out.
Exactly.
All the
If you
fundamentals
can't
stuff.
jump, you better block out.
Exactly, Coach.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I mean, all the fundamental stuff, that leads me to my question, because, you get to Central High School, and as a sophomore, I mean, you look on that team, and you got Johnny Parker on that team. I mean, tremendous sharpshooter, great player. You got Arthur McFadden, big guy, big guy, can score on the inside, all of that. And then you guys have some nice guards, but Coach Gant decides to put the ball mostly in your hands.
Wow.
To get them the ball. And how did you feel about that when he tapped you to this responsibility?
Well, when I met Coach Gann, I used to go up to watch their games when I was like in the 7th or 8th grade. And Arthur McFadden, the crowd, whenever he shot the ball, they had this little thing that they would do. Whenever he shot, they were like, woo, whoosh, when the ball goes through the net. But Gann came to see me play while I was at St. Nick, and he was impressed with me being able to get the rebound and dribble the ball up the floor and make the correct pass once I got down the floor. And so he told me that if you come to Central, you are not going to see any B team. You're going to play on the varsity. And he didn't have to say anything else to me after that,
That's
So I would go up after school and I would play in pickup games with the team, and Gann himself would play. So I was just thankful that my coach, Brother Rich, taught us the fundamentals, how to dribble with your right and your left hand, how to pass, your passing angles and all of that. And I was very fortunate, and not only was I at St. Nick, that I had a bunch of other players that was there. Now most of them came from the Catholic school Persuasion, and they wanted to go to Catholic high schools. They wanted to go to the DeSmets and St. Mary's, and I think at the time DeAndre. But I decided to stay with public schools. I guess I could have gone to a Catholic school, but I already had my mind made up where I wanted to go. Plus, I had a brother that played football at Central, and I wanted to follow that. We lived right around the corner from Central, so
Gotcha.
I didn't have to catch a bus. Or anything.
You're right there.
I could throw a rock and bust out one of Central's windows if I wanted to. So I was able to just walk right around the corner and be right there at Central. But he did tell me that I wouldn't see a day in a B team, and it was actually, they had gone to state the year before that, and I was like the sixth man on that team, and I played a lot as a freshman. As a freshman, I played, and sometimes people look at you, especially nowadays, where you guys that have AAU experience, they come to a high school team, they're probably ready to play. They done logged enough time to surpass B team, so
Right.
they put them right on the varsity, and they're ready for the varsity. The only reason you wouldn't be ready to play on the varsity is you're not physically capable
Right.
keep up
Right.
with
You
those
have to get a
guys.
little bit bigger
Exactly.
and things like
Yeah.
that.
Exactly.
And Coach,
yeah.
also, you said something about being physically able to. What about when you challenge your coaches, or your players? You know what I mean? And they pout. They're not ready for varsity, are they?
Well, you know, I like I said, I was a student of the game, and I followed this person religiously before I found out that he was a Republican. Bobby Knight. I was extremely impressed with his team that went undefeated when they had Wilkerson,
Yes,
Buckner,
sir.
Ken
75,
Simpson,
76.
Yep.
and those guys. And
Yep.
so I didn't pattern myself after him, but I watched how those guys had a tremendous amount of respect for him.
Yeah.
And I think it's only, a couple of ways that you can coach. Your players can love you,
But they hate you.
or they can be intimidated and hate you.
Yeah.
But as long as they're doing what you taught them to do,
You'll be satisfied.
That's
you'll be
it.
You'll
satisfied.
be satisfied.
I do believe one thing, Coach. Again, I'm sure you think the same way. But players always remember the coaches that are hard on them, not their friend.
Right,
A lot of guys that they're trying to be their friend as opposed to coaching those guys
Right.
or coach them up.
right,
So I'm sure you feel the same way about that. That's the way I feel.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And also, that's the thing I wanted to ask you as well. That's good that you tapped on that, Coach. Your whole mentality as a player and then as a coach, you gave no quarter, you asked no quarter. I mean, it was tough. It was a tough, relentless type of style. Where'd you get that from?
Well, we before we moved around the corner from Central, we lived in Carr Square Village down in the projects, and we lived in the Peabody, and it was kind of rough there. But even when we came back after my mom and dad divorced, and my mom moved back downtown where she was really from, and then my dad, he moved out and stayed with his mom out on Taylor. So that environment, it causes you to make some adjustments. You
Yes,
just
sir.
couldn't, and there was no transportation, so wherever we went to play basketball, we had to walk, and we got on those playgrounds, and you might not have been from that particular neighborhood, but the way I looked
yeah,
at it, I wasn't taking any prisoners, and I knew that, and this was instilled in me at a very young age, that you may not have been the most talented offensively, but it just takes heart and toughness to play defense.
That's right.
And I challenged my teams, I challenged myself. I used to ask Coach Gant, no, let me guard him. I want to go. And my assignment was to guard the toughest player on the other team. And so I took great pride in that. It doesn't matter how tall you were. If I could deny you the ball, if you couldn't get the ball, you definitely couldn't score the ball.
That's it. That's it, Coach.
So
You can't score if you don't touch the ball.
Right. So I was relentless in that, and that's how my teams played.
That's right.
But it actually, we pressed the whole basketball game. I got that from Coach Gant. We pressed, and then we kind of modified our press where we're trying to disguise that we're not really pressing, but we are going to press. We just wait for you to get to a certain point on the court.
There you go.
A certain point on the court, and then we're going to come with that double.
All right.
Yeah. And our guards, I was a guard. I was considered a big guard. And
That's
then
right.
another guard that played with me, he was like 6'3". So when we trapped you, you were trapped. You were trapped.
Definitely that.
Hey, Coach, talk to us a little bit about coaching. Again, we talked about it as a player. At what point did you decide you wanted to coach, and talk to us about that?
Well, when I transferred back here from the University of Mississippi, a couple of coaches that was down at Ole Miss with me, they began to seek employment, and they was asking me if I wanted to come with them, and I said no. I spent 2 years down there and did really well, but my coach was a disciple of Bobby Knight, and he was doing some things to players that I didn't agree with,
Gotcha.
And I've been brought up to respect and love my coach and run through a brick wall for him. I wasn't one that you can intimidate. You know, I told him, man, I'm from the project. Man, I'd have been chased, knife pulled on, gun pulled on me. What you say to me, that's not going to affect me whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about the disciple of Bob. Now, I'm the disciple of Gene Iber, Hank Iber. They're from that same tree.
Yeah.
Eddie Sutton, Norm Stewart, and those guys. There were some mean SOBs back then. So I know exactly what you're talking about, Coach. When he was doing some things that you didn't agree with.
Man. I'm like, oh man, I didn't come down here for that. I think we played Kentucky one year, and as we look at the talent pool that we had versus what they had, you know, I felt that we played in Rump Arena, I think, and we was within 10 or 15, but he was so mad that he, instead of letting us rest and then catch a later flight out, he got us up early that morning, got on the earliest flight. We didn't even have breakfast. When we got back to Memphis, we drove back to Ole Miss, and they got off the bus, and he's like, "Oh, we finna practice." I'm like, "Oh man,
what?
Hey man, wait a minute. You know, I didn't sign up for this."
That's unheard.
But it's something I want to say to make sure that guys that are being recruited, when you're being recruited and you go for your visit,
yes, sir.
I would like for you to not only talk to the guys that are playing, because they're going to have nothing but good things to say. Talk to the guys that are not playing. You're going to get a different story. And then there's some guys that's going to be leaving. Talk to them before you make your decision, because they're going to tell you some things that the other group wouldn't tell you.
That's a good insight. I never heard that before.
Yeah.
I always just say, you better talk to that guy who's scoring all the points, and then that kid on that bench that's not scoring no points, not getting any playing time. Spend a lot of time with him.
Right.
Because see how happy he is.
Right.
He'll tell you what you need to know.
Right. Because I guarantee you, in every program, and especially nowadays, I wish they had it back when I played, where they, you know, allow guys to leave after 1 year without a penalty, that you can get to play. You go through that portal and you get to play. Crazy. And they used to didn't let you play in the same conference. They made, if you were going to play, you had to transfer out of the conference and then sit out a year and then play. But now you can play right away.
Yeah. What do you think about that, too? I mean, we've asked other coaches about that. We might as well ask you about the transfer portal.
I tell you, that transfer portal, you look in there and you say, wow, this kid is leaving. And then it's I can understand if you're leaving based on you're not playing a lot. But some of these guys are leaving, and they're like the second leading scorer, and you know, and stuff like that.
They're just thinking
that's
NBA.
Not making, that's not making any sense to me. You know, why would you want to leave when you are actually a big part of that program? You know, but that just lets you know that behind the scenes something is not right in paradise. You know.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And speaking of paradise, if I can say this real quick, Coach. Yeah. Because I want to let Coach Hamilton know, I talked to somebody that's you're a big brother to him.
Okay.
And I had this question that I asked him, and I said I was going to ask you the same question and see what your answer would be. Now he gave me a real good answer to this question.
Okay.
So I'm going to see what you're going to say. The person is Daryl Pee Wee Leonard.
Okay.
That's who I talked to, and I asked him if the 1975-76 Central team went up against the 1980-81 Central team, what team is better?
You know, I'm going to say this before I try to answer that question. A lot of times I'll run into guys, because you know I also coached at Roosevelt.
Yep, that's right.
That's
true.
Yeah. And we were fortunate enough to have some great guards there, Sean Carr, Marvin Mohead, those type of guys. And so when I would be in those guys' presence at a homecoming game or something, they'll say, well, who was the best guard? So if you were Sean Carr and you asked me who was the best guard, I'm going to tell you were the best guard. You Marvin Mohead, and you asked me who the best guard, I'm going to tell you were the best guard.
There you go, Coach.
But you know, all of those guys were very talented. Yeah. as far as teams go, our teams, we were massive. You know, we had guys that were 6'5" and 6'6" and 6'7" that were sitting on the bench.
Wow.
Pee Wee's them team, they were smaller. And we could either fast break the ball up the floor or walk it up the floor, because we did well against set defenses. Pee Wee's them team, some teams, they tried to outrun teams. And they were very good at it because they
averaged over 110 points.
They led the nation in scoring one time. And I'll tell you something. When I came back here to UMSU, Coach Gant had gotten tossed out of a game. And he called me and he said he wanted me to come down and coach the team. I'm like, oh, Coach, I haven't been around. I don't even know what you're teaching those guys down there. He said, look, everything's gonna be okay. He was loaded. It was Pee Wee's them team.
Yeah.
He was loaded. The opponent that day was Vashon. I'm like, wow. I said, well, okay, I'll come down. But the only thing he told me to do was at the halfway mark of each quarter, you just put another 5 guys in because they were loaded.
Yes.
Now, Pee Wee, he was the catalyst of the team.
Oh, yeah.
But they had Darren White on that team.
Oh, yeah.
And Darren White didn't even start Coach Lee.
Wow.
Right.
And this kid here was probably one of the best athletes
Yeah.
to ever play in the state of
Yes,
Missouri.
may he rest in peace.
He made
Yes.
PHL in football, baseball, and basketball. And he wasn't just, you know how some guys, you know, they'll go out for the team just to be, that wasn't him. He was outstanding. He was the quarterback.
Right.
And kicker and punter. He's the catcher on the baseball team. He was one of the he was the best athlete that ever came through Central that I knew.
He was our Dave Winfield and probably better.
Yeah, he was something else.
I mean, unbelievable.
But it was 2 different eras, and I knew we were bigger than Pee Wee's team, but you know, in terms of quickness, they had that edge on us. But as far as height and being able to play against a set defense, you know, we come down and we gonna push it down your throat.
This is interesting to me because you guys act like y'all talk to each other or something. He basically said the same thing. He says two different teams, 2 different styles.
Yeah.
You know, of play. So he didn't choose.
Yeah.
He actually never chose and you didn't.
Yeah.
So okay.
No, I never want to. You know, I never want to take any guys credit or glory away from them, especially former teammates, because you know, like I said, they had some great teams. And if I go back, the state championship eluded us, but if the stars were aligned, I would say this: Pee Wee's them team should have probably won 2 state championships.
That's right.
And I think our teams, in my 4 years, should have won 2 state championships. They eluded us, but you know, we had a good time playing, and we played against some of the top competition. And I tell folks this: the Smet, who had like a state championship atmosphere tournament that they held every year.
Yeah.
They had some of the top teams in that thing every year. For the 4 years that I was in high school, we won it every year.
Wow.
And then we let Kanye's them luck up and beat us.
Curtis got you. Curtis
Coach Bird
lucked up and beat you.
Coach Bird is referring to our director producer Curtis Conyers, former guard at the Smet.
We gave them the biggest gift of their life, but they outplayed us that game. And Kurt and Darby, you know, they guarded real well. And I don't know who guarded Chucky White, but Chucky White, yeah, he did an outstanding job, and they wind up getting us that year.
Well, you know what? They might deserve it if somebody was able to guard Chucky White, because not many people were able to do that.
Man, I'm telling you, I guarded him in the drills and stuff at practice. I've never, and this includes my days in college, and this is probably before Dominic Wilkins and you know, stuff like that, but. Man, that guy was unstoppable. You know, he could handle it, Lee. He would dunk so hard it would go through the basket. You would have to check and see if it actually went through. But he was outstanding.
Yeah, he might be one of the most outstanding individual players to come through St. Louis, along with JoJo White.
Yeah.
I mean, just wow. But it's been so many though.
Yeah.
You know, and you coached so many great players.
Man.
You know, the younger, you know, well, I shouldn't say the younger, the older Luther Burden. You know, Luther Burden and Charles Bledsoe.
But those wasn't my guys. Those guys, they played under Coach Cole, Bobby Cole. My guys, my era started with Brian Turner.
Brian Turner?
With Brian
BT.
Turner. Yeah.
Brian Turner.
I got BT, man.
Yeah.
Craig
It
Upchurch was
started
your
with
guy?
him.
He wasn't your guy either?
No, only it started with Brian Turner and then some of the guys after him. But Beaumont has always been a pretty tough team, you know.
Yeah.
And I tell guys this, I said, now when I played, every school in the public high league had at least one Division I player on that team. Even Roosevelt, even Cleveland.
Yep.
We actually had 3 on my senior year, myself, Chucky White, and Reggie Claiborne. All of us signed Division I scholarships.
That's right.
And then, of course, McFadden and Parker and some other. Like I said, we had guys that didn't even play league that wound up getting scholarships.
Wow.
Because when the recruiters would come, and a lot of coaches, they say this, our practices are tougher than our games.
Right.
And so they see those guys practicing, but they couldn't get in the game.
Wow.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I know all the time it was always told to me whether it would be, okay, well, you know, it's going to be a great year for Sodan, Vashon. Oh, and watch out for Beaumont.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Oh, and watch out for Beaumont. That was
Exactly.
usually the thing all the time.
Well, you know, the history of the PHL goes back to, you know, guys like Travis Brown, and people don't know this. And like I said, I've always been a student of the game. George Cross, who coached Gant and Mr. Irons in high school, I would look at what we were doing versus what Bashan was doing. It was almost like a carbon copy.
Yep.
And that was because of George Cross. But you had other great coaches like Jody Bailey, you know.
Oh, yeah,
I went to the
Northwest.
camps, and
Northwest.
Marvin Neals, I went to his NYS program. So, you know, I did that, and even though I was playing for Gant, I always thirsted for knowledge of the game, and some of those guys who have been my mentors, you know. I picked up a lot from. So when I became a head coach, I took the things that I learned under Gant, things that I learned from the University of Mississippi, the things that I learned at UMSL, and I came up with my own philosophy
There you go.
of how I wanted to do
There you go.
things. And the one thing that Gant, he always taught us, he said, look, no matter what it is, you make sure you go over it, and like when you're in the Army, you go over it, it just becomes second nature to you in doing these things. So we did our fundamentals. We start off 45 minutes at each practice doing nothing but fundamentals.
Yes, sir.
And then we'll break into,
Yes,
you know,
sir.
our special team stuff, and then certain things that we want to try to set down. A Bradley Beal, we got to
Hey,
go
Coach.
over him. And I would take a whole hour to do that.
Yeah. See, Coach, that's one thing about, again, the coaches in the PHL don't get enough credit. Don't get enough credit for the teaching, the amount of teaching that goes on in the practices. Like I said, I used to go by Floyd's practices. I saw your practices. Again, the amount of knowledge that the coaches in the PHL know, people don't know about.
Yeah.
And again, it's amazing. But again, the fundamentals and the players that's come out of the PHL is incredible.
Right.
All right, that's good stuff, Coach. I'm good. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, just great. What you're picking up on. The other thing is when we're talking about greatness, you know, we were talking earlier about when we weren't on air about great players, great coaches.
Yep.
You know, and I wanted to ask you, Coach, great player, great coach, but a lot of times that doesn't transfer. I mean, it's a lot of great players that have not been great coaches. I mean, why does that not seem to transfer to you?
You know, and like I told Brian and Turner when he wanted to become a coach, and it's a good thing that he kind of landed up under Kelvin, and Kelvin mentored him as well.
Yeah.
But I told him there's a system again. You don't have to be like Bird Hamilton. You have to be your own man when you become a coach. You cannot second guess what you know. You know, 'cause like my granddaughter, she graduated from a little preschool or something, and they had her recite this poem. And one of the things she said at the end is, because I know what I know. And so if you know what you know, you make sure that you stick with what you know. I tell my guys, when I go to those games, I'm sitting here and I hear guys in the back, take so-and-so out, put so-and-so in.
Can't
and I used
listen
to
to
tell
that.
them,
Can't
I
listen
say,
to that, man.
you don't ever, I don't even want to catch you,
Yep.
turn around. I don't care if it's your mama and your daddy back there yelling at
Those ears
don't
better
turn
not be
around.
back there.
You gotta
Don't
do
turn
your
around.
thing.
Those
Because
ears.
they have not been in our practice.
Yeah, you
They
focus
do
on the
not
game.
know what you capable of. I watch you in practice. We press like every day, and I know what you can handle and what you
Can't
handle.
handle.
But the thing that I have to do is put you in a position to be successful
That's
when
it.
you hit that floor.
And that's what
coaching
it's
right
about.
there, Coach. That's coaching.
And on that note,
I got a quick question.
you got a quick question?
now.
Oh, okay, you got
I
another thing?
know we got to wrap it up, but again,
Right. One
Coach,
more thing.
I know we've been in some battles when I was in Chaminade, and again, you claim that you beat me, but I do not remember you beating me, Coach. I put something on you. But again, who was the most revered coach? I know you and Coach Irons I wasn't too buddy sometime now. But again, who was the most revered coach you had to coach against?
Well, I'll put it like
And don't
this.
say Coach Lee, okay?
I won't say Coach Lee, because Coach Lee suffering from some amnesia right now because he can't remember the whooping that we gave you. But what I'll say to that is, I respect all coaches, and
Yeah.
the one reason that I respect them, this guy did an article on me, and he came to Beaumont, and I explained to him back some of the guys, because some of the best guys that played basketball, they didn't come out for the team because they was involved in stuff,
Yep.
gang stuff and doing stuff. And I used to tell them, you're not going to do both.
Yeah.
Either you're going to play basketball or you're going to be in those streets.
Yep.
And the only thing I'm going to do is pray for you. You know,
go.
because we had kids at Beaumont, they couldn't walk across the park to get to their house because of what they were involved in.
Yep.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
so I just had this strong belief that if you were going to be a part of this, you were going to have to buy into what we were trying to do. You're going to have to buy into it. And I did not relinquish when it came to that.
That's right. Well, that made sense. Well, speaking of buying in, I've got to buy into wrapping it up for today, or either my director and producer, Curtis Conyers, is going to pull us off this stage. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for watching our show today, the Sports Extravaganza, and our guest, Richard Bird Hamilton. He was fantastic, as I knew he would be. And he's saying one more thing.
Let me
now.
say one more thing.
He's already there.
Because I didn't-
You
It's
doing
all
one?
about you, man.
Yeah, because I didn't get to. Now, I've always respected Coach Irons
Yeah.
as a coach.
Yes, sir.
I didn't respect some of the things that he did. And that's some of the things that you did to try to keep Beaumont from being right on your heels. I didn't respect that. But I did respect him as a coach. But I put Floyd Irons, Jim Gant, Marvin Niels, Jody Bailey, I put them all on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Because those are the guys that I kind of model myself after.
Well, you guys are most
right.
competitive. It's all about competing, Coach. You
Yeah.
guys are very competitive. You wanted to win games. And again, it took some jaw jacking sometimes, but that's part of it. You know, it's all
Exactly.
about players, you know what I mean? Again, recruiting players. But again, the bottom line is winning. And you guys did a lot of that, and I respect that too,
A
Coach.
lot of
Thank
winning.
you.
A lot of winning. Well, that's a drop the mic moment right here.
Yeah,
So
man.
I got to take control again here. So thank you again, everybody, for watching the Sports Extravaganza for today, presented by Hallelujah Entertainment and our sponsor, State Farm Insurance. Call Kincaid, please. He's waiting on your call. 314-997-3339. He's located at 8429 Olive in University City. Again, 314-997-3339. And like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Thank you, folks, for joining us for today. Take care. Bye-bye.
And, Coach, you didn't beat me.
Oh.
I don't have amnesia.
You guys go.
I do not
Hey.
have amnesia.